is Kirsten Dunham. Is it Kirsten?
Kirsten, you got it right.
Okay. Executive Director of Mid-Missouri Legal Services. Kirsten initiated Mid-Missouri Legal Services Consumer Law Project in 2017 to help low-income clients achieve financial stability and remove barriers to employment. In 2021, she began serving as MMLS's Program Development Director and became the Executive Director in July 2022. Prior to working at Mid-Missouri Legal Services, Kirsten served as a law clerk for the Honorable Laura Denver Stiff of the Missouri Supreme Court and subsequently worked as an Assistant Attorney General in the Missouri Attorney General's office. In her life before law school, Kirsten worked for 16 years at a disability rights organization in St. Louis as a policy analyst and ultimately director of policy and advocacy. She is a graduate of Missouri Law School. She earned both her BA and her Master's of Social Work degrees at Washington University in St. Louis. Welcome.
All right. Thank you so much, Kathy. I do have some copies of presentation for those of you who are visual. I'll pass those around, and then kind of not exactly an annual report, but a snapshot of our services in 2024 to pass around. And I can also email if it's helpful for folks who are on virtually.
Attach it with the follow-up email.
Well, I'll start just by describing our mission and what we do. We provide free civil legal assistance to low-income individuals and families in mid-Missouri, as our name says, Mid-Missouri Legal Services. That's not hard to guess. We also provide legal services to survivors of domestic and sexual violence. And we serve 11 counties. So in addition to Boone, we have Audrain, Callaway, Chariton, Cole, Cooper, Howard, Miller, Montauk, Osage, and Randolph. It feels like there's a lot of need and a lot of area to cover, but we are one of the smallest legal services, certainly in the country. You know, in our state, our sister legal aid often have 40 to 50 counties that they serve. So, we feel like 11 is plenty, but I can't imagine being that large either. I kind of like to look a little bit back at the history just as to why legal services was started in the first place, because it's still relevant today. So the Legal Services Corporation Act that enabled legal services organization was signed by President Nixon in 1974. And just give a couple quotes from then sponsors. Senator Hubert Humphrey said that far too often living in poverty means not having access to information about the legal system. And Senator Mondale said that legal services program is designed to assert the rights of the poor under the Constitution and under the law before the courts of the land. It is undeniable that those whom it serves, the nation's poor, have often been denied many adequate opportunities to assert their legal rights before the courts and under the law of the land. And the legal services was created to provide those free civil legal assistance. I think a lot of people are familiar with public defender system, and they hear that in the criminal system you have a right to an attorney, and people may assume, well, that means I have a right to an attorney anywhere for any case. Yeah, but unfortunately not. That's just for criminal cases. So Legal Services Act really opened up funding for free legal services for I'll sort of name off the kind of cases we handle. Housing, so evictions, uninhabitable conditions, failure of landlord to make repairs, failure of landlord to return the security deposit, housing discrimination. Those are under housing. Family law, certainly if you need divorce, order protection, child support, child custody agreements, that's hard to navigate on your own, and private attorneys are very expensive. We also just cover areas where private attorneys don't take the cases because there really is no way to earn their fees. For example, unemployment insurance, other public benefits. Now, Social Security, you can get back pay when you're found, if you win your case, and you can give a certain percentage to a private attorney. But when it comes to things like SNAP, food stamps, Medicaid, there's not the same thing. So we help people who've been wrongly denied, or maybe receive an overpayment notice that they owe back to the government. We help folks in those cases. My bio talked about consumer law. We help folks who have been the victim of predatory lending. We know that often lenders who are not on the up and up will actually target low-income individuals, people of color, people without education, to tack on products that the person didn't really want, to lend money to them, even if their credit score isn't bad, at huge interest rates, and then try to collect on it. So the people who are low income definitely are targets of predatory lending and unfair and deceptive practices. And so those are the kinds of legal issues that poor people face. I talk about, I think there's a cycle where being poor causes you to have a legal dispute. You can't afford your rent, so then you're in a situation where your landlord's evicting you. But also legal issues can cause poverty. If you are evicted, then it's harder to get ready for work, to go to work, to get your kids to school, and so then that leads to loss of income. Or if you were the victim of some auto fraud and then you lose your car, you can't get to work, then you lose income. So it really is a bit, in a way, a vicious cycle where you either have a legal issue as a result of not having adequate income, or your legal issue can cause you to have economic barriers and financial instability. So unfortunately, it is kind of that cycle. And we know from studies, there was a most recent study was in 2022. The National Legal Services Corporation studied the justice gap, and basically looking at people who are low income and what percentage of them had a legal issue in last year and what percentage were able to get legal help. And they found that low income Americans go without legal help for 92% of their civil legal problems, and that people who are low income are less likely to seek legal help. I was stated they go without legal help. They also have less faith in the system and are less confident that they could find an attorney. And so, that's just looking at that 92% of people who have a legal issue that don't get help. That's what, when we talk about the access to justice gap. I also like to kind of set the picture of, talking about poverty and serving people who are poor. What does poverty levels mean? You guys are probably more engaged citizens, so you may know, but in 2025, for a single person, if you're making over $15,650, you're not considered under the poverty levels. So it's that low. Yes. For a family of four, that's $32,150 a year. So, we use, government and other programs use those poverty levels all the time for eligibility, and it's
And how often are those numbers updated, and how do they make those numbers?
They are updated every year, and I'd have to refresh, but there's kind of a formula. I think they figure out kind of the categories of expenses, like sort of you expect that maybe X percent, 30% is spent on housing, 30% on food and utilities, and then look at the prices that the amount of money that you need to live. But I don't think there's been a lot of criticism of how those are calculated. That it may not, the calculations, even though the numbers are updated, the formula maybe needs updating to reflect the higher cost of housing and for those.
How do you split it? That's not much money.
No. And we at Missouri Legal Services serve people we can serve anybody at 125% of the poverty level, and most people up to 200% of the poverty level. So we can, but still.
Oh, that's true.
Right. So, but it's just our staff. We have an intake process, application process, because it is free. We do only have so much funding. We can only serve so many people. So we have a process to make sure people are eligible, and our intake staff will do anything to try to get them eligible, because it's so hard. If they're a little bit over, that doesn't mean they can really afford a private attorney. When you think about private attorneys, maybe want a $5,000 retainer just to take the case. And so, don't want to make eyes glaze over too many more numbers, but I think it's interesting to look at the access to justice gap in our service area. So we have an estimated, in our 11 counties for Missouri Legal Services, an estimated 72,755 individuals who are eligible for legal service. Now, there's an estimate that the access to justice gap found that about 74% of low-income housing or individual households, as I'm trying to say, 74% of low-income households experience one or more substantial legal issue. So I applied that 74% to the 72,000 that are eligible for legal aid, and that would be 53,838 individuals in our service area who would have a legal issue and would be eligible for our services. 58,000. In 2024, we helped 2,600 adults and individuals, and we were proud. That was a bump up from the year before, and we were proud of that. But that just shows we have 20 staff and 11 attorneys. So that I just like to use those numbers to show that gap that's there. And so where else can people go? I mean, private attorneys, I've mentioned the fees are high, retainers are high. The private attorneys might take a case if it's the type of case where if you get damages, they could take a contingency fee, like X% of your award, or maybe there are certain kinds of cases where you can recover your attorney's fees from the other side if you win. And so with legal aid, we do try to kind of fill the gap. So for example, we don't take personal injury cases because there are private attorneys who will take those as contingencies. So we're really trying to serve folks who can't afford or get a private attorney. Also, people try to represent themselves, but that's difficult because the judges are supposed to hold every party to the same rules of procedure and rules of evidence, and so it can be very difficult. And then, frankly, a lot of times people just default. That's particularly true on the consumer side. They get served with a debt collection lawsuit for alleged credit card, or the car was repossessed, and when it was sold, there was still amount due on the auto loan, and they just I can't deal with, let them enter a judgment with me against me and then try to collect it. So we see that happen quite a bit. And so the impact of not having an attorney, certainly there are impacts on the individual level. If it's a family law case where abuse or domestic violence is involved, you're facing your abuser in court alone, where maybe you're without an advocate, you're more, you maybe at a disadvantage where they're trying to manipulate you or scare you or intimidate you into settling. You might lose your custody of your children because your ex is trying to use some of your medical records about your depression against you to say that you shouldn't be a fit parent, and you don't have the knowledge to counteract that yourself. Becoming homeless, if you're facing an eviction and you don't know that you have some defenses because the landlord illegally entered your property or stole your property, you can face homelessness. And then when a judgment for money is entered against you, either the debt collection case or if it's an eviction case where they're alleging you owe damages to the property, that judgment is good for 10 years and can be renewed on forever. So the judgment creditor can garnish your wages, can try to attach your bank accounts to collect your judgment. So it really impacts your ability to have enough earnings to meet the needs of your family, your children. And so it can be just an ongoing, sort of financial instability for folks. And I think too, on a systemic level, there's a negative impact. I mean, when people don't have an attorney, it can lead to an inefficient use of court resources that just kind of, because the pro se party doesn't know the rules, or kind of drag things out, or just cause confusion or delay, or because they don't know the procedure to ask for discovery or file a motion and that sort of thing. It leads to inequities in results, lack of faith in the judicial system, which I think harms all of us. And then just not having an attorney to assert some of those affirmative defenses to fight against discriminatory practices or unfair practices just perpetuates systemic racism and injustices in our system, because you don't have an attorney arguing those defenses. The bad wrongdoers get away with it. So I think there's a systemic and community impact as well. So on the sort of the next page, I'm on slide 4, how we can help. So having sort of set out that kind of not so good news about the gap in legal services and what happens when you don't have an attorney, we'll talk more positive about what we do at Mid-Missouri Legal Services. I've kind of already hit on the range of civil legal issues we handle, but the services that we offer can range from advice and brief counsel. And I'm always surprised just at how helpful that is to folks, just to even know, do I have a case here or not? Especially with employment, when you're at will, it's very hard to actually have an employment claim. And so, but people, you tell them that, you can think, oh, they're be frustrated, but they said, no, now I know not to waste my time on pursuing this or to spend money on an attorney. Or maybe it's a kind of a simple issue where you help them draft a demand letter for their last paycheck, and they're able to, after being educated, they're able to send that letter on their own and negotiate with their employer to get their last paycheck. And so that advice and brief services actually can be really helpful.
Your services are not on a sliding scale. They're
Right.
Really, there, people are eligible. You get
Exactly. Right. Exactly. Yeah. If you're eligible. Yeah. And if you do get people asking us, because, I totally understand it. When thinking, okay, I'm not eligible for free legal aid, but can I pay a little bit? And it's like, unfortunately, we don't have that issue if you're eligible or not. So yeah, we provide full representation where we're entering in a court case, negotiating with the other party. So we provide that range of services. We also, I talked about that gap between the number of people who have a legal issue and are eligible for our services and those that we're actually able to serve with an attorney representing them. So we've been the last 2 years really bumping up our resources for self-represented individuals. Now, the nice thing is we can provide legal information and training to anybody, regardless of financial income, guidelines, regardless of citizenship status or immigration status. You can't cross the line to actually being legal services or advice, but if we just have like a frequently asked questions about tenant rights or a presentation about how to read your lease and what a landlord can and can't do, and here's some forms that have some defenses where you can check off, yes, my landlord illegally entered my apartment, or check off my landlord didn't make repairs, and then that person can go file that form themselves in their case. So and it's not just us. Legal services around Missouri and around the country have really been trying to kind of enhance that sort of self-help, I guess is the best way to describe it, self-help legal work. Again, having an attorney is the best, but if we can at least give somebody a form where they can file it, there's just so many stories. I feel like, let me know if I'm getting too much into the weeds on certain legal issues, but in an eviction case, a self-represented tenant goes to their trial and they think, well, I'm going to bring evidence at trial that the landlord didn't make repairs and the living conditions were horrible. What they don't know is if they did not raise that soon enough in the case, they're prevented from bringing it up at trial. Mm-hmm. And so they get there, they think they have this great evidence and this good case, and the other party objects, and the judge, just because the judge has to follow rules, has to prevent it from coming in. Whereas if they see our table at the courthouse, they come over, they get the FAQ, they get the form, they fill it out themselves, go file it with the clerk. Again, they're preserving that argument for a hearing. So I always want more resources for more attorneys, but we can fill some gaps here with these resources.
Chris, a couple of questions.
Sure.
You had 20 in staff and 11 attorneys. The 11 attorneys are not included in the 20 staff.
They are.
Oh,
yeah.
20.
Yes, only 20, right.
But for people
Right.
who don't meet these qualifications, you have referrals. You have a list of attorneys. These are people that can handle your kind of case you're looking for.
Well, we do refer, Missouri Bar has a pretty good find a lawyer website where you enter the county you're looking for, the type of case that you have, and it's based on attorneys reporting that these are the cases I handle. But we don't really have a good case list of attorneys who will do it for a reduced fee or pro bono. That's where where we need it.
Do you manage the pro bono lawyers that volunteer, or do you just assign them?
We
Or is this some combination?
it's sort of a combination,
Yeah.
because we do use pro bono attorneys as well as reduced fee contract attorneys to handle some cases to help us extend our resources. So with the reduced fee, with the contract attorneys, we're able to, they still have to be eligible for our services, but we might pay, well, what we do pay is $100 an hour to a private attorney. So that's maybe not even half their regular fee, but they're willing. So they're almost pro bono, but so they take a case. And in those cases, they're the attorney, they're handling it.
Yeah.
Pro bono, we do have a little more involvement, because typically a pro bono attorney is not going to take a court case that's going to trial, but they will participate in a clinic where they're helping somebody fill out forms for an uncontested divorce, or they're helping fill out a will or POA form. So we tend to see our pro bono attorneys wanting to do more of that time limited assistance, like a wills clinic or an uncontested divorce clinic.
So your involvement is a lot more than the 11 attorneys. That's sort of the whole local bar period.
Yeah, we would like more involvement from the local board, and we welcome all participation. We have our contract attorneys, maybe 5 right now, so we could certainly use more. Yeah, but for people who are not eligible for our services, it is just sort of a go out there and find somebody, unfortunately. So kind of talked about the impact of not having an attorney. What is the impact of legal aid when you do get access to legal services? And Legal Services Corporation has really been trying to spread the word, because we are in a funding crisis at the federal level, in case anybody didn't notice. But so they did a study looking at, for every $1 of legal aid funding invested, there's a return on an average of $7. So trying to shift the thinking to not just we're helping individual clients, but we're really impacting the community. That makes sense, because if $1 spent on legal aid, that's going to be our attorneys earning a salary and helping clients and spending their salary in the community. It's going to be, if we help a client get some child support, then she or he has more funds to then spend on their children. Or with our consumer cases, to be honest, if we enter in a debt collection case, we most always get it dismissed, because often the people are suing. Credit card companies are suing people for like $1,000 and $1,200, and their attorney's fees are going to be higher than that if they pursue it. So, sometimes it is a legal argument on the merits that wins it, but often it is kind of just that economical decision. So when we help people avoid debt, they have more income in their pocket to spend, or if we help get their security deposit back from a landlord, that's more money in their pocket to spend on their next housing. So that's kind of the economic investment that we see from legal aid. And then just showing other impacts, helping with the safety and well-being of families. We cannot take all family law cases just because of resource limitations. So we pretty much prioritize cases where there's abuse, or one parent is withholding contact with the children from the other parent without cause or without reason. And so we're really, our family law is impacting the safety of families, helping them get to safety and safely separate from the abuser, improve their financial stability by getting some child support and other support they need. And then the same with our public benefits and our consumer, if we're helping people get more food stability by helping them qualify, get food stamps, keeping their Medicaid when they're wrongfully terminated from Medicaid, preventing debt, or we do bankruptcy, and and so that's helping the financial stability. So that's some of the, those are the positive impacts of civil legal aid. Another one I'll mention too is that we handle expungements. So if somebody has a criminal record that's preventing them from getting employment, or even preventing them from getting food stamps, there's certain drug offenses that would disqualify someone from food stamps. So that is a kind of a very obvious area where we can have a very positive impact on their ability to find a job, have some economic stability.
We've had other guests who have worked on that lately too. So good to hear that from you.
I thought that was kind of an administrative function, like.
You're not talking just about marijuana. She's talking about other things.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Right. But that's a good point. Yeah, when Amendment 3 passed, we were doing a lot of education with our clients to say, look, you don't need to use, because there's another expungement statute with, I think it's you can do 2 misdemeanors, 1 felony. It might not be exactly right, but they've updated it recently. But we would say, don't use up one of your lifetime limits over here on the marijuana, because the courts are supposed to be stealing those. So yeah, there definitely was some education that I think some courts still haven't made it all the way through all the cases yet, is what I hear. So.
Where are you located?
We have our main office here in Columbia. We're at Garth and Ash, just a block north of the library. We do have a satellite office in Jefferson City, which is much smaller with a couple of staff. But it's nice because kind of have a place on both sides of the river. We do serve, Osage and Montauk and Miller, and it's a little bit easier for folks to get to our Jefferson City office. So we kind of talked about the big impact on communities and families, but just looking more specific to Missouri Legal Services and in more detail also on the back of the blue sheet. Last year, we handled over 1,000 cases, and those cases had an impact on 2,600 adults and children in those households. We also have a veterans law clinic at the Harry Truman VA, and we were able to help 489 veterans with some basic legal information and services. We are right now, again, everything that happens in DC trickles down. We were supposed to renew our memorandum of understanding to continue the clinic there. The local VA administrators are very supportive. They say we have a positive impact, but certain changes this year required all agreements for the VA have to go up to DC, to the VA Doge committee to review. And until we have that approved, we can't be in the VA. So unfortunately, we're providing our service. We're still trying to get our phone number out there to veterans, but it's not the same as being there when they're coming for their their appointments anyway. So
Well, were you able to get paid for any of that through veterans?
no, and that's why we're sort of frustrated. Is this
Yeah.
this was just a pure agreement to let us have some space. That's all. Oh, we didn't get paid.
So they don't provide them with their own. Veterans should be given from the veterans this kind of legal aid.
Yeah.
And now you're saying you will give it on
Yeah.
your own expense.
Right.
And won't even give you the place.
All right. And then again, the local folks want us there. They are
Yeah.
great. It's just waiting. I guess maybe they're reviewing everything to make sure that we fit with the executive orders or something. But I just.
I think you're being kind. To
Yes.
They're not doing anything.
Well, yeah. So hope, but we are trying to serve them at our office, reaching out to other groups like Welcome Home to see if we can be on site there. So yeah. And then I left my slide in because I had done some presentations for Hard Missouri United Way because we are in the HMUW or United Way campaign season. So I left that in there to say that thanks to them, we get a good amount of funding from them. And I like that they focus on outcomes. And because I think as attorneys, sometimes we are just focused on, well, did I win the case or not? What was the outcome of the case? But this helps us to look at the impact on the individuals and their families. But so when the Financial Stability Project, that's a lot of our the debt collection cases, avoiding garnishments, avoiding auto repossessions, and looking at ways we can help clients improve their personal finances. So 94% of our clients had their debt reduced or eliminated. And in our housing law project, 98% of clients being evicted or threatened with eviction avoided homelessness. So that's where we see having an attorney in there just to get more, even just if it's negotiating more time to move out so they can find another place to live, can really make a difference. Success stories, these are always more fun than the numbers. And so I just included a couple of stories here. One was for our Financial Stability Project. I've changed details and names, but Maria, she was able to avoid a debt she was sued for a payday loan that was taken out of her name, but she had no recollection of taking this loan. It was an online loan, so that makes it even easier for other people to use your name. So she called Missouri Legal Services because she thought, well, it's not mine, but I don't really know how to fight this. And how do this is my word, how do I prove that it wasn't me? And so she thankfully heard about Missouri Legal Services, was eligible, had an attorney, and her attorney filed an answer and affirmative defenses, which means like saying, hey, there's reason, not just that we argue that she didn't owe it, but actually you were doing some things wrong that you shouldn't have, that would prevent you from winning. And one of those was the attorney discovered that this payday loan branch was operating without a proper Missouri license. And of course, that gave some nice room for leverage, and the attorney was able to get the case dismissed against her client. And so that means, that it's not hanging over the client's head, worrying about, am I going to owe this? And when you get a judgment entered against you, there's always post-judgment interest, at least 9% or higher, depending on the contract you had. So if you're low income and you have a judgment entered, that judgment is just going to grow, even if your wages are being garnished. It's just going for a long time. So it's really significant to get these cases dismissed. I also share a story from our housing project. A woman called Jennifer. She had reached an agreement and gotten an order in an eviction case that said you have more time to move out, and just that we're going to put a stay on the execution of the judgment, meaning that nothing could change. The landlord couldn't take any action during that stay. However, during that time period, her landlord locked her out of her unit, trashed and sold all of her belongings, even though that judge had an order. And so her Mid-Missouri Legal Services attorney was able to represent her in court in a motion for contempt. And the judge awarded her $27,000, not only to recover loss of her property, but some compensatory, not exactly punitive, but compensatory damages, to just say to the landlord, you did a really wrong thing here.
How do you replace your wedding photos?
Right.
They're gone.
Exactly.
How do you replace all your kids' pictures, right?
Right.
They're gone. They went in the dumpster and
But also,
they're not coming back.
Yeah.
it's not that much to get into stable housing. If that was what she was able to do.
With 27,000, that's
Yeah.
a nice chunk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
Right.
that much. really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I'll just end with sort of how can the community help? Because I always love to when I have a group of engaged individuals. So of course, donations. Everybody says donations help us. I think pretty much every group and nonprofit is trying to diversify their funding source, not rely on government grants so much these days for a lot of reasons. Volunteer work, we kind of touched on pro bono work for attorneys, but all types of volunteer work help us extend our resources. It helps us build awareness. Just the more people are involved in Missouri Legal Services and know what we do can build support in the community, which maybe translates to financial support as well. And we have a couple of opportunities right now. If you know any attorneys who would like to do pro bono work, we're always looking for pro bono legal services. But we also use paralegals. Paralegals can help prepare draft wills. I mean, the attorney needs to sign off on it and review it. But that is often really helpful. And even just like coming to a clinic and being a notary, if you're a notary public, that helps us out as well. We're also right now looking for specifically some marketing and communications advice and support. We are working on a fundraising plan, and included in that is to try to make sure that all of our communications, our materials, our website, that it's nice looking logo and easy understandable materials, easy to use. The format works for folks. And so we're trying to pull together a committee of volunteers to very immediately kind of assess and review and make recommendations on our current materials and what we need to change, but hopefully to then lead us through actually some redesign or redevelopment of those materials. So if you have any interest or skills in marketing, probably heavy on the digital marketing, or if you have any friends or family members that are looking for a way to volunteer.
Yes, I have a question about that. Right now it's kind of the quiet season, but next year the campaigns will get going. We do end up working with young people, students, and even more advanced students. And I guess those of them working on campaigns who are interested in the legal profession, we could recommend to see if they could volunteer with you.
Yeah,
because that's kind of hard to know where to send them.
Right.
Because most law offices want to be very careful about, and you will be too.
Right.
But if there's somebody who is a marketing student or is interested in the paralegal field, even if they've not had much training in it, can they come talk to you about volunteering?
Definitely. I think students are a great resource. We had a really great MU student and started in the summer as an actual intern. He actually designed this for us, and then he liked it so much he actually just volunteered over the summer and set up our LinkedIn page. So,
well, politics, campaigns, and the law are often intersecting in some of these young people.
Yeah.
So besides sending them to see their lawyers that they might know.
Yeah.
Your firm of many attorneys would be a more interesting place to get started. I would think.
And we, we do a training for all our volunteers on, here's our restrictions, and when you have your volunteer hat on, here's what you can and can't do. But so we take care of it. Yeah, we'll take care of that. So if you make referrals, that would be wonderful. Yeah.
Try to think of it.
Yeah.
Are you all using Como Gives in December?
Yes.
So we can go through that.
Yeah, in fact, that's thank you for reminding me. That's why we're trying to more immediately get a group together to look at our materials before Como Give starts. Yeah.
What is your mix of funds? What proportion comes from it?
Yeah, so we have 30 35% is from Legal Services Corporation. So they're our largest federal funder. And
And they
about-
get federal funding.
yes. And right now the House, I mean, of course, will they even get to appropriations? Probably not, but the House appropriations bill would cut us by to 46% of our current funding. The Senate version would actually be a 1% increase. So,
Yeah.
wow. So the White House proposed zero funding, which is what President Trump did his first term each year.
Yeah.
So we expected that, but so in a way, I mean, again, trying to put a positive spin on 46% at least showed that even in the House of Representatives, they wanted to get something, but and so for us, a continuing resolution would be good if, level funding.
I was gonna point out, we got a revolving thing here that most of us, when you work in your office, may not even remember, but it's for community resources. I don't know if you have flyers or something we can leave.
Okay.
here.
Yeah,
And we already have some.
Maybe so. Yeah, we might have newer ones.
But continue, the 35 from the Legal Services Corporation, what else?
Then 12.5 is state funding.
State government.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we get, this is very nice, but there's IOLTA, Missouri Lawyers Trust Fund Foundation. There are rules that about how attorneys keep client money separate from other accounts, and all sorts of rules of ethics around client funds, and a certain percentage of, it's almost like an interest rate, basically, like a certain percentage amount of funds attorneys pay to this IOLTA fund, and then that gets dispersed to legal aid. So we get, we call it IOLTA. It's like, I can't remember the L. It's some trust. It's a lawyer's trust account. I can't remember what the IO stands for. But
It's
we
the
get,
attorneys themselves who want to support.
yeah, it's required. It's like banks. If you set up a client trust fund account, banks are set up to automatically deduct the 1% from the trust account, and then it goes to this fund, and then it funds legal aid. We also get some filing fees. So anytime attorney pays some of the fees for filing a lawsuit, a certain small percentage goes to legal aid. And then
You don't get paid in judgments, though.
we actually can. We can collect attorneys' fees in certain
The
situations.
attendance doesn't turn out to be a big part.
Right.
Herb Tillema online has got a question. Let's see if I can move it to where you can see him.
Sorry if we didn't let you get done.
Oh,
We're a
no.
big questioning group.
I like that much better, because otherwise I would get blah, 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 rambling on.
Can you get yourself unmuted, Herb?
Yes, I'm unmuted. I wonder if you would be kind enough to help me with some more quantitative information. Before I do that, I want to thank you personally and the 19 other lawyers who are participating in your system. This is a very important national program. What is your annual budget? And what, and I'm going to give you a string of these things. You can,
All right.
I'm interested in the budget, the amount, and what sources of income and amount, just roughly, come from something other than federal appropriation. On the product side, you mentioned that you had 1,000 cases. I would be useful to know how that's divided in terms of types of service by major categories, family law, and so on and so forth. And any things you want to mention that distinguish you from other units here and elsewhere across the country.
Yeah, so our annual budget is right under $2 million, and roughly 65% is not federal funding. And I sort of started kind of going through we get some state funding, filing fees, the trust account foundation, and then donations, and then investment income, kind of to round it up. And United Way, yes, United Way. And on services, housing and family law are the highest percentage, both roughly around 35% of our cases. Family law slightly tilts a little bit, but they're pretty much neck and neck for the top two.
35 each or 35?
35 each, sorry, yeah,
Wow.
70%,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sad.
yeah. And so then the rest is kind of divided between, wills, simple estate planning, consumer, public benefits. And that, we first then do our staffing to reflect that, how we have the most family law attorneys and housing law attorneys. Our consumer, we have one attorney. Our public benefits and healthcare, we have one attorney. But so we do try to align, we do align our resources to match the need that comes in. And we do a legal priorities setting each year and we often don't make changes because the need is always still the need, but we can at least look at, are there any trends in the law that people are starting to call for help with something that's kind of new that we need to look at adjusting our priorities. So we do that each year. We do a formal legal needs assessment about every 3 years where we will do focus groups and surveys and actually bring in people from the community to do a little more formal needs assessment process. And not surprising, family law and housing is what comes up at those meetings as well.
I suppose family is probably in every district. Legal services very large.
Yeah.
Housing might be a bit bigger here, or
I think it's not.
Also
And I think it's
big
also,
there.
it's, I think when we
My
see the
niece-
national figures.
my niece had your job in
Okay.
Evansville, Indiana,
Oh, wow.
for a while, and she talked about family law
Yeah.
most of the time.
Herbert, did that
Right.
answer your questions?
Very quick follow-up. That numbers you tell me suggest to me that your trials and tribulations in underfunding and underactivity compared to the need is paralleled in many other such organizations across the country. It's a national disgrace.
Right. Right. And I think there's also, we have rural areas in our service area. Some legal aids just cover, other states design, their system differently. Some are just in Chicago, for example, just Chicago, whereas we cover rural areas. And I think rural areas bring some unique challenges as well, just because they are kind of like legal deserts. So when we want to try to recruit pro bono attorneys or the contract attorneys, it's just harder to do where there really aren't even if somebody isn't qualified for our services, there isn't really another private attorney in their county real often to refer them to. So there's some, even I think they're unique. We are a little unique here and kind of our rural nature as well. And we are 501c3, yes.
My question has to do with on the side of the family law. Do you have an active working relationship with True North? Do they make referrals? Because I would think that while there are criminal aspects of domestic violence, there are probably also all kinds of
Definitely. No, thank you for bringing that up, because we do handle orders of protection, child orders of protection and adult orders of protection. And then often that will lead to a divorce case or maybe a paternity custody case. And yes, we get referrals from True North and the other shelters in our 11 county area. And we're all members of the Missouri Coalition Against Domestic and Sexual Violence, who is an amazing resource. Their staff is just so helpful, and it's nice to have someone else looking out for, analyzing the laws and regulations or the funding changes at the state and federal capital to inform us and also just bring us together so we can have those working relationships. And definitely community partnerships and that's why United Way also is so helpful. They'll bring together all of the agencies that are financial stability projects or all the agencies that have a housing project and really promote that cross collaboration, because unfortunately, if somebody has one debt collection case, they're probably going to have more. And so if we can connect them with Love Columbia, get some financial counseling, and maybe have some prevent that from happening in the future, that makes us all stronger.
Have you seen any changes in the payday loan industry, or whatever you would call it, that are making it less predatory?
Not in Missouri.
No, we tried.
Yes. Yeah, I think some other states
Hard.
like Colorado.
Yeah. In the house, the bill is a payday.
Oh, that makes it
We
hard.
tried so
Yeah.
hard, but they're
Yeah.
good in the state. Is what it was.
Yeah, so unfortunately.
Well, you people more than
Right,
that.
right.
There still is the law.
Right. I will say one, sort of a convergence of sort of consumer unfair practices in housing is mobile home issues. We're just seeing that, that's seen as a more affordable option than buying a house, but they're kind of are these yo-yo sales where someone who owns the lot and the mobile home will sell the mobile home, then have a reason to end the lot lease. And then the person, either it's such an old dilapidated mobile home, they just can't move it, or they can't afford to move it. And so then they leave, are evicted, and it becomes abandoned property that the owner can then, the lot owner can, resell. And so that is, I mean, I think it's been happening for a while, that we're seeing more and more of those cases when you kind of ask about trends or things that are new.
What about the rent to own furniture situation? That was, I worked in social work, and that was always something that I saw was really taking advantage of people, because the rent to own is quoted as a weekly rate, and people don't total that up to what and get themselves in a real bind.
Yeah, we do see those cases, and sometimes when even if the person just really does owe the money and didn't return in time, we can, at least having an attorney, you can try to negotiate a payment plan that they can afford, or say, hey, would you settle for less, because you have the reassurance that at least you got something, whereas if you just try to garnish them, you may not know if you actually get your money or not. So at least try to negotiate on some of those. But yeah,
Just the fact that they have a lawyer, maybe enough to a lot of people. Our son was up against that sort of thing years ago on a car, and when the people that were harassing him from the dealership, he said, "Well, I just have to talk to my lawyer." And oh, you have a lawyer? You get the hell out! It's like that was last year.
Wow.
So he didn't have a lawyer.
Right.
He's going to try to find one.
right. Yeah,
Just knowing there's someone on your side
Yes.
that knows the law.
yeah.
Knows.
It really
I
does.
used that before.
And I mean, the sad truth is also that if somebody has us for an attorney, the other side knows they're poor and don't have a lot of money. So
Yeah.
well,
I just hear such good things from practicing attorneys about legal services. and
oh,
why it's
thank
important.
you.
Herb has another question, a follow-up. Go for it, Herb.
We still have about 10 minutes.
Another friendly
Hey.
question. Do you see any enduring trends in terms of the kinds of services and the kinds of parties who are seeking your services over time? Or is this, it looks to me as if this is pretty much an enduring pattern. The big surge when federal funding first appeared was the unexpected large number of women seeking legal separation and divorce and financial help to do so. And that continues. Do you see changes coming down the road, or not just things for the moment because of the Trump budget, but generally?
Right. I think not a lot of changes in our clients on the opposing parties. On the housing, we're seeing, this has been happening for a few years, rather than it being local landlords, it's investment companies.
Yes.
It's corporate. It's and our attorneys are having a harder time finding out who actually owns this.
Yeah.
I mean, and they're doing all sorts of discovery, trying to track it down, and it's maybe some company that has a headquarters in California that we just
Mobile home courts are this way, aren't they?
Yeah. So I think we're seeing some changes there. Kind of just
Private equity.
You should have never allowed that to happen in this country. That's criminal.
Some changes that are budget related, or at least budget reconciliation related, are the Medicaid changes with the work requirements and the take effect.
Eye on that.
Yeah. And we had a little presentation from our public benefits attorney, and even if a number of people are exempt from the work requirements, there are going to be 6 months reviews where
Yes,
you have to
they
submit
do.
paperwork, and that's how they're going to disqualify
That's how
those
they
people.
lose their qualification. It's not going through that process. Ugh.
And Missouri makes that and other processes difficult. Long wait times.
Yeah.
It can be numbers.
Right.
That looks like a reasonable call, that there'll be something happen.
Yeah.
Let's hope something takes it all away.
This has been great. I'm just double checking. I don't see any more questions that we've missed in the chat, so.
Well, there are none from here. I guess I want to ask you, we kind of interrupted you with our questions. Is there some usual final summary or reminder that you want to give us?
Yeah, I think just sort of help with getting the word out kind of on 2 prongs. One is probably every nonprofit feels this way, that like we're focused on outreach, we're trying to get materials, we go to fairs, we go to resource fairs, and then we find out people still don't know about you. And it's and so we certainly want people who need our services to know about us. One, that there is free legal aid. People don't know that. And then 2, people don't recognize all of their legal issues. I think divorce or family law, yes, you kind of know I need to go to court to get custody of my kids, or if you want a will, yeah, I probably need an attorney to write the will. But when it comes to consumer or healthcare, they don't recognize that as a legal issue. So kind of that awareness building of, hey,
For housing until it happens.
right. Yeah, like, well, I guess my landlord can come in and do this, or they just don't know. So yeah, kind of recognizing legal issues, knowing that legal aid is available, and then just, volunteering, supporting.
Have you partnered with Powerhouse at all? They do a lot of, the reason I asked is they do a lot of outreach events.
I wouldn't be surprised if some of our housing and outreach staff haven't worked with them, but I'm going to write that down. Are they Columbia, I guess?
Well,
Or-
they're multi-county.
Oh, okay.
But they do have a strong presence.
Yeah.
Powerhouse, that's right.
Yeah, tell us.
I think it's called Powerhouse Community Action.
I have a question.
Community Development.
Community Development Corporate. Yeah. And they have go ahead.
No, go ahead. You probably know more about it.
They've convened the agencies in Columbia to meet weekly, or not monthly, under the umbrella of Unity in the Community.
Okay, I think I have heard people talk at the office about that.
Kristen Bowen in the chat says she thinks she's seen MMLS tabling at Powerhouse Community Resource Fairs in the past.
Okay.
So I think there probably is a
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah.
I know for sure they were at the
I have a question.
back to school events.
Oh,
Hello.
sorry. Yes, Suzanne, yes?
How, is there somebody specific or a phone number specific on site? I have a client who really needs the services, and so I need to be able to
Thank you.
direct her to someplace specific because she's so overwhelmed.
Thank you. That would be a major miss on my part to not tell you how to apply for our services. So thank you. So right now we do telephone applications. If somebody needs in person for an accommodation reason, we will do that. But our phone number is, for the folks there, is 573-442-0116. And when I send out,
That went out into the chat too.
okay, great.
People can notice in the chat.
And
And then Dave Taylor's been throwing links. If you scroll up in the chat, he's got your contact
okay.
up here.
Look at this.
I just thumbs upped it, so it's easy to
And
find.
this whole thing, not the chat lines, unfortunately, but your whole presentation will be posted within a couple hours after this meeting.
Okay.
And please ask people to go to the
Okay.
Muleskinners website and watch your presentation there.
Well,
If
thank
you don't
you.
have time to give it to them yourself.
Okay.
I have a feeling that with all this fundraising and, now touching bases with all those community groups once again, helpful for you, but you are a lawyer, you have lawyer things to do too. And so it's, I'm encouraged by your spirit,
Well, thank you.
with which you bring this positive legal services. This is what we're doing, and we do it good.
Yeah. And
The times are so tough.
yeah. And I just really am so lucky to, they're not here to hear me, but I brag on the staff because it was with such good people who care about the mission and care about their clients. And
I do hear that from the attorneys, many of whom are still there.
Yeah.
Are still, some attorneys even in the legislature, I think, who under their breath without anybody hearing will say that they have to support legal
Yeah.
services. So I'm hoping
Right.
that there's that going on, just people who understand the law.
Right. Yeah, we did this past session have of legislation to remove the sunset on our filing fee funding,
Yeah.
and we had bipartisan support for
Yeah,
that. So that was encouraging.
but people who, that's one thing they do know something about, those of them who are lawyers, even if they pretend to be incredibly stupid about everything else. They do know a little bit about that, being practice attorneys, so I'm hoping that continues, this important work that you do. I got brought into local politics by Barb Poppy, I think, when she was working in that office too, so locally, I'm.
Yeah.
She was a public defender.
Well, that was probably,
Oh, okay.
that's different,
I was like, I'm just gonna look her up when I get back.
Yeah.
also good work. Very good. Thank you so much for coming. Hang around.
Hang around, or if you need to go, you can go.
Um,
Or do a little business meeting.
We'll have a very small business meeting, but, if you,
I'll eat my fruit first.
want to
Yes,
have
please.
somebody here